Okay, so the Sidecar Companion for HTML email, which we're just going to call the Sidecar app for short, has two main components, the image panel and the code panel. The image panel is what you see when you first start the app and load an image. Once the image is loaded, the toolbar, the inspectors, and the viewer appear. The inspectors and viewer always reflect the changes you make in the toolbar. Now, on the toolbar, this button opens the image bin, which lets you define a subset of images for a specific task or code block. This input field is where you set the default table width, which is reflected on the gray and white field in the viewer below. And this is also the default table width for code blocks you output from the code panel, which we'll talk about in a later demo. These inputs scale the current image proportionally by width or height. These buttons scale the current image incrementally by width. And here you enter values to set the current device width for small phones and large phones. These values are reflected in the inspectors, but also in the CSS code blocks you output from the code panel. Now let's load an image and check out the toolbar, inspectors, and viewer. As you can see, when you load an image, it's always initially scaled to the default table width, in this case 650 pixels. Now note that since the display size is less than twice the size on disk, the app shows a retina alert by showing the display size label in red. Now that means at this display size, you need a better image. But if we change the default table width here to 600, the retina alert goes away because the size on disk is now greater than or equal to twice the current display size. You know, we've all done this math a million times, and we know that if you let a low-res image slip through, it can cause some extra work down the road. So that's why the Sidecar app gives you an alert and suggested resolutions up front. But what if you need a retina suggestion for a specific display size, like a small or a large phone? Well, the Retina Inspector always shows the recommended Retina image resolution based on the current display size. So if you need a quick Retina resolution for a large phone or a small phone image, you can just enter that height or width value in the toolbar, and the Retina Inspector will update accordingly. Now way over here, we have the refresh button, which refreshes the browser and starts a new Sidecar session. It's important to remember that toolbar values persist across Sidecar sessions until you manually change them. So even if you accidentally refresh, you don't have to worry about losing your defaults for the current project. So the image panel is kind of like a one-stop shop for image information. It's especially useful for scaling images for specific display sizes in responsive emails and can save a lot of time, particularly in conjunction with the code panel. So that was the quick overview of the Sidecar app's image panel. Let's move on to the overpaste node and code panel demos, because that's where things really get interesting.